Australia's leading dietitian, Susie Burrell, is known for her extensive expertise in nutrition and psychology, having studied both at leading Australian universities. Holding an honours degree in psychology and a master's degree in coaching, her education and interests dovetailed nicely to enable her work in behavioural change. Commencing her career as a clinical dietitian, she spent 10 years at the Children's Hospital at Westmead, Sydney, in the area of childhood obesity, while simultaneously working in private practice. Her work with elite sporting teams such as the St George Dragons, Parramatta Eels, Sydney University Rugby, and the South African Blue Bulls further broadened her applied experience. Susie maintains her own clinic in Sydney, seeing clients for weight loss, hormone-related issues, including PCOS and insulin resistance, through to sports nutrition, all while raising her young twin boys and maintaining a busy media commentator schedule. Welcome to Pure Health Hub, Susie.
Lindy, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to have you. Now, look, I've always considered myself a fairly healthy eater, but as of Mediterranean descent, I'd run for the carbs if I ever needed comforting. Now I've been thrown a curveball and diagnosed as type 2. Now, this is an extremely difficult condition to manage, but I researched like crazy, and all it did was made me realize how little is known, except to say that our nutrition and movement will support a healthy management of it, if not reverse it. But no two diets are the same. I've tried all sorts of things and then get confused and someone else says something else and I'm like, I don't even know where to start here. So I've got a really special interest in this topic. So it's no secret that diet and exercise are the key contributors to our good or poor health. Plus, there are also so many conditions, diabetes, inflammatory diseases, cholesterol, etc., that rely on us getting our nutrition just right. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do we do this? How do we demystify nutrition in 20 minutes? All right. So we've got paleo, Atkins, keto, DASH, intermittent fasting, juices, Mediterranean plant are all the latest food trends. No wonder we're confused. Now, tell me, what are your thoughts in I guess, a brief snapshot? Are they short-term, long-term, or no-term?
I think what you've surmised beautifully is that it's really complicated, and nutrition is not a one-size-fits-all model. Every single one of us has a different lifestyle, genetic background, food preference, all of those variables. So the thing with diets is that any diet, and we all have a diet, people will say, oh, I hate the word diet. Well, the truth is we all eat a diet, and it's whether a diet is perceived as restrictive or not that gives it the negative connotations. But a diet is simply a pattern of eating. Now, any diet, whether it's DASH, fasting, Mediterranean, paleo, keto, they'll all work. But the missing link, Lindy, is if you can follow them. And that brings in the human aspect. And of course, human beings generally don't like being told what to do. And when it comes to food, they like to eat it. And we're reasonably inactive in our lives. And so the missing link is finding the diet that is sustainable and right for you. So indeed, if you're someone who likes to eat a high-fat diet, and let's be very clear, keto is a high-fat diet. It's not a low-carb, it's high-fat. It's actually very tricky to get into ketosis in modern life and stay there. Most people don't do it or can't do it. But if you can and like it, it will work beautifully. So it really is a matter of understanding what the parameters are of each of those diets and work one into your regime that suits you. So for example, for yourself, someone who has had the genetic predisposition to developing type 2 diabetes, that is a very specific prescription that if we get right can potentially reverse it. But again, it's complicated and will require bringing together several of those variables and making sure that any dietary regime that we choose is sustainable, but also that you like it, because we like to eat and we want to develop something that works for us and fits with us. So it's about choices. And that's the beauty of working with a dietitian. The dietitian will help to tailor any diet for you with your preferences, but specifically medically, when dealing with something complicated like type 2, they will then have that clinical expertise to make sure that they're working with that condition for the best outcome.
Oh my gosh, what a way to summarize how it should be. Oh, it was like, GPs is sort of talking about one, keto and then paleo and then this, and then someone else would say, no, there's grains. And so you end up doing it all, which is having no benefit at all. So that's absolutely right? Because I think we do love to eat. Like a big thing for us is going out for a bite to eat or, something like that. So it's adapting it to your lifestyle. And obviously the only person who can do that is really a dietitian.
Well, the qualified person is really the dietitian. When it comes, especially for medical conditions, of course, there's a lot of very well qualified nutritionists, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that medical prescription and you're dealing with big health variables and medications and genetic risk, you really do need someone who has that tertiary qualification. But just going back to what you said about food, eating and food is one of life's most simple pleasures. If you're Mediterranean, people from the Mediterranean, they savor, they enjoy great quality food, they sit and enjoy it. And I think what has happened, particularly women who are aged, say, between 40, 50, 60, certainly the group that I work with and speak to, they have been taught that you shouldn't, there's something to feel guilty about. It's wrong to be indulging. And so for me, the art is getting the balance that allows us to indulge when we want to within moderation, but then buffer it, because we can't just eat whatever we want all the time, which is, high fat cheese and chocolate and wine. We have to get a balance that suits our lifestyle. And the issue for many of us, Lindy, is that we're inactive. So we can't eat whatever we want. We have to choose. Do you want to have a small glass of wine every day, or do you want to have a few drinks once a week? And this is where the choices come in that allow you to formulate a regime that works for you, but you've got to like what you're eating. If you don't like it or feel restricted, you won't continue it. And that's the missing link. So it's really about thinking, what do I feel like eating? What's going to satisfy me? If I am going to have dessert or a treat after dinner, what do I actually really like? And, when I ask my clients, they struggle to answer that question because so many are eating on auto cue, what they think they should be eating, as opposed to getting back in touch with their body and listening to their natural hunger, their fullness, and what foods are satisfying and enjoyable.
Yeah. Wow, that's almost, but you're right. I guess that takes me then to the monitoring. There's a lot of talk about self-monitoring our food and drink intake. Is that, should we be doing this, or is that too becoming a little bit too obsessive about what we're doing?
Certainly there's pros and cons. Now, the cons come if someone has had a history of eating disorder, clinical eating disorder, or disordered eating. Certainly it is contraindicated for those people to more micromanage their food intake. But I would argue that is a smaller percentage of the population than who are overeating. Yeah. And when it comes to overeating and weight loss, the evidence is strong. We've just had new research come from CSIRO recently to show that self-monitoring, whether it's food intake, whether it's steps, whether it's weighing yourself, whatever's right for you, measuring your waist, is highly predictive of weight loss success and keeping weight off once you've lost it. And it's very simple. It promotes mindfulness, because a lot of eating in particular is mindless. You grab the kids' leftovers, you eat from their lunchbox, someone's left something on the bench, you take a bite. It just brings mindfulness to it. So when I work with my clients, I always give them the option. I don't make them do it. But what I say is, if in the initial stages, if you keep a record, just writing a quick list of what you've eaten, or take some photos, which is the beauty of technology. You don't have to write anything, just take snapshots and send it through. One, it will help you be more mindful of your choices, so you make better choices, and you will also understand the way you eat, so we can tailor a program to suit your needs better. And it's, in my experience, highly predictive of success because of the awareness. And as I said, in busy life, a lot of what goes on is on auto cue. And they don't do it forever, but it's just that checking in. And in particular, when it comes to weight, and whether it's weight on a scale or just a waist, if you're an anti-scale person, no problem, but just a waist measurement, it allows you to track. If it's creeping up, you can stop it before it gets significant, because it's much easier to halt a couple of kilos than it is 5, 10, 20 when you have to work really hard. So again, it's just that awareness of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the clothes are always a key indicator, aren't they?
100%, which is why I don't like elastic waists.
Yeah. But they're so good sometimes.
But in general,
especially if you go out for an Italian meal or
yes,
something.
true. But for women, particularly in their 40s and 50s, going through this perimenopausal phase, which is getting so much more attention, which is fantastic, because we want our women in their mid-years to create a healthy, agile, fit senior year. These women might live till they're 90. You want to keep looking after your body. Keeping an eye on your waist is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep your health on track, because when your waist is creeping up, it's highly suggestive that your insulin levels are going up and your glucose level needs work, and you're ultimately going to prevent a lot of issues with your health if we keep on top of your waist as you move through your 40s and 50s.
Yeah, right. And that's, very important at that time. So I was going to talk a little bit, how do we identify, but I think you answered that in a sense that really we need to, what are the questions we need to be asking ourselves? Okay, what's our lifestyle? But what are some of those key questions that we should be asking ourselves to establish a diet of sorts, and I mean overall.
Yes.
I don't mean.
So some take-home tips to sort of start to shift. The first thing is, where are your vegetables? For optimal health, we need 7 to 10 serves a day. Forget 2 and 5. That is baseline public health advice. For optimal health and well-being, basically the more fresh fruit and vegetables, the better, and in particular vegetables. So the number one piece of feedback I'll have for my clients each and every day, where are the vegetables? At every meal, you want 2 to 3 cups at least twice a day, vegetable juices, bulking up your meals. If you do nothing else with your diet, doubling your vegetable intake will reduce your weight, improve your skin, reduce your disease risk. You'll feel fuller, more satisfied. It's the simplest diet ever, but no one will buy a diet, which is called just eat more vegetables. And make them taste good. Season them, saute them, olive oil them, make them taste delicious as they do in Europe, and you'll eat a whole lot more. So that's the very basic one to do. The next thing for women, particularly in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, we need a lot more protein. The evidence that's coming out is that we need to increase protein as we get older metabolically to help reduce the carbohydrate load, but also to protect our muscle mass, which reduces over time, and that impacts metabolism. So as a rough guide, I encourage my clients to have a protein-rich food every time they eat. So a couple of eggs for breakfast, protein yogurt in the morning, salmon, omega-3 rich salmon. I'm an ambassador for Tassal, so we're very focused on increasing fish intake, particularly in these groups. That's a very smart protein choice for busy women. Canned tuna, canned salmon, lean chicken, lean meat at every single meal. We want to keep an eye on those carbs. Now, I'm not saying carbohydrates are bad, but I'm saying that a lot of the carbohydrates we choose on a daily basis are bad. It's the white rice. It's the massive slabs of sourdough. It's the wrap bread, which is just processed white carbohydrate. Our default carbs aren't good quality. Simple shifts to whole grains, dense grain and rye bread, whole grain crackers, getting your carbs from fresh fruit rather than super loading the heavier foods like the pizza, the pasta at night, which is unfortunately not something that works for most of us with our sedentary lifestyle. You want to tick the box on your good fats. So you want a serve of nuts a day. You want a serve of oily fish like salmon at least every second day. You want soy linseed type grainy bread. You want to be cooking in extra virgin olive oil. So good research to show that 2 serves, like up to 40 ml per day, will not have a negative effect on your weight, but is very powerful from an anti-cancer perspective because of the powerful antioxidants in that. And probably I'll round it off by saying, we've got to limit the fast and processed food. Often we're ordering Uber Eats, we're having banana breads, rewarding with eating out, plus the alcohol, plus the treats after dinner. It's just too much. If you can cut back on the fried processed food to sort of once a week or less, you'll be on the right track.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about it. I did put a question here about the fast food rabbit hole. Probably 3 decades ago it came, might be longer, I can't remember, maybe 4 decades ago when it really started to arrive here in Australia. And then we seem to have gone down this rabbit hole of thinking that this is almost like a daily meal option.
Well, there's a few things. The first is that it's actually cheap. So, the cost of fresh food is really high. You have to be pretty skilled in a supermarket going to the market, shopping on sale to keep your grocery bill down. Like every item in the supermarket has gone up $1. So there's a frozen veggie that I buy that's got a cheese sauce. Now, it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it's delicious. I like it. And it means that I eat broccoli. I don't really like broccoli, so I'll eat broccoli. Now, it went up. It was $4.50. That's only 2 serves. $4.50 to $6.50, like that. Now, this is every item. This is adding $50, $100, $200 a week to people's grocery bill. If you can go and pick up a pizza, now don't get me wrong, if you order on Uber Eats, it's not cheap, but you know, for example, if you buy the kids a Happy Meal, it's $5. Like you can't argue that, particularly when you're buying for 1 or 2 people, it is cheaper. You know, if you buy all the ingredients for a stir fry plus the protein, you can probably buy it for half as much in the shop. So that's one of the issues. The other issue, of course, is people are just time poor. They're so frazzled with work, commuting. You know, I've been on the Gold Coast. I know you're there. The traffic is horrific. So people just have less time. And if they haven't had that sort of concerted effort to plan each week and it gets to 6 o'clock, you know, they're just time poor. So they just grab something on the go or pick it up via Uber Eats. So, you know, don't want to blame people because people are doing the best they can. What I would say is use your freezer section in the supermarket. You can easily get the pizzas there, the dumplings there, the frozen fish there. It tastes tastier, it's healthier. Is it a grilled piece of salmon and veggies? No, but it's still better than fast food that you're buying from food courts and Uber Eats, and certainly less expensive if you do it that way.
Okay. So that's a really good point, because I even found recently, and I posted it about, you know, you can get your bag of salad and you know, throw some tuna in it or something. And I just thought, God, that took me about 3 minutes. Okay, I had to go via the supermarket, but it took me 3 minutes to do. And it was much better than ordering that pizza. But, you know, sometimes we just, a brain's not even in the
and
right
I think
place.
that's looking for quality, because what I find, not only is the ordering in not cheap, you know, you're $60, $80 a meal for the family. It's always cold and soggy. That was what dawned on me. I didn't even like it. At least if you're having a hot pizza from the oven, even if it's made frozen, or dumplings you make yourself, you know, you can do it. But I think people are so burdened in their mind with so much, they don't have the cognitive capacity to think about what I can do. So it's about saying to people, like, get the frozen fish on order and keep it in the freezer, get the dumplings. No, you can get a barbecue chook from Coles or Woolies, plus the bag of pre-made salad for $5. That's a $20 meal for a family. That's much better nutritionally than, you know, getting a fried version of chicken on the way home. So just giving people convenient options and permission to not have to chop everything from scratch in busy lives. And of course, frozen meals, very cost effective and smart at the moment, nutritionally, very, very good. So there are options.
It is giving permission though, right? Isn't it? I mean, I've only just recently started to buy those bags of salad because I'm thinking, oh, no, the environment, or, you know, I shouldn't be doing that. I should chop my own. But in actual fact, it's much more economical than buying all the parts for the coleslaw and just doing that. And there's no waste, and there's no, you know, so, you know, times have changed, I guess, and we should adapt to that.
Now we can, supermarkets, you know, there's a lot more supermarkets could do to make healthy easier, cheaper. Healthy eating easier and cheaper for Australians, but they can help us when it comes to that mass-produced salad, etc. You know, it's $5 that big bag. There's no way you could buy those ingredients for less than 20. No. So in terms of using supermarkets to our advantage, absolutely, the more they help us, and I think that will improve. You know, if you look overseas, the US, the UK, that very quick market, those sort of pre-made meals have been a big part of their offering for a long time. And I think it will continue in Australia as the cost of living rises and people have to work more and need quick and easy options. I always say to my clients, forget stopping at a corner store or the 7-Eleven, go to the supermarket. You will get quick and easy meals, a salad, a pre-made meal, cheaper, and they're always open. They're open late. There's one everywhere. So use your supermarkets and you'll do well in keeping your nutrition on track.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that really is the tip. That is the key, I think, to maintain and, you know, staying on an even keel and not sort of dropping to the other one, to the fast food. Geez, I think we've gone through this so well. Now, the reversing what I was going to say here, you know, reversing that attitude to fast food. And you're right, it is everybody who, you know, it's all of us who are just crazy and time poor. But is there other elements, is there education? Do you think we're doing enough in education to remind people what fast food really is doing?
Oh, that's a really hard question. Because I think with younger generations, they're so programmed to the online ordering of things.
Yeah, true.
And in a certain way, it's kind of glamorized. And certainly, there's a perception that some are healthier. I know that the Mexican are perceived as being healthier, or and there are some options, things like Vietnamese and fishbowl and even sushi, there are healthier options. I think that it's more reminding people that any kind of processed fried food is not good for us. And really, you do want to limit that overall in the diet. When you look at cultures like the Mediterranean, they don't consume a lot of that processed food at all. It is ultra processed, particularly the most popular ones. And so really it's the younger people who will have that health issue long term because it's a big part of their habits. I think, you'd be really questioning the cost and the quality that comes. You're ordering pizza for $80 and arrives, cold. That's a 2 or 3 family meals you can get for that. But it really, the less of it in the diet. When you look at health data, weight control, heart disease, diabetes, there's strong links between ultra processed fast food. So basically the lesser, and particularly in the diets of kids, because it does slip in. You'll have a party one week, or they'll want McDonald's on the way home, and they're eating it 2 or 3 times, and that's where the habits are built. So for anyone listening who has a family, always much better to do a healthier version at home and limit it and keep it. That's something we do once a week, once a fortnight, not as a routine part of the weekly meal repertoire.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think we've slipped into that, because I remember it being, just a sometimes thing, probably still considered a treat, but definitely a sometimes thing. Look, I think you have done, in such a short amount of time, demystified nutrition. When we talk about all of these different, diets and things that we're talking about now and that are trends, it really is about keeping that simple, right? The protein, the greens, whatever that is, salad, greens, whatever, and mixing that up. I mean, that really is that simple if we just maintain that thought and a little bit of planning, right? Would you say? I think you're very easy on because I think you're a realist, right?
And I think it comes back to quality and really taking time to consider what you enjoy eating. So often, as I said, particularly my women, they're eating on auto cue. They don't even know if they're hungry or not. They just grab what they can. Whereas if you can, first of all, link into your natural hunger. And before you eat a meal, say to yourself, am I an 8 out of 10 of hunger, or am I only a 4? And then should I wait? Get in touch with your natural hunger. Food will taste better, be more satisfying when you're actually hungry for it. So focus on meals and enjoy them rather than that picking we have all day, so we never really get hungry. Make them balanced, vegetables, a good quality carb, protein. And then when it comes to those more indulgent foods, whatever your love is, if it's cheese, if it's wine, if it's chocolate, really savoring it and enjoying it rather than playing mind games of, I'm not going to have it, then I'm going to binge it and then feel sick. As opposed to, I love to have a glass of wine, but I don't need it every day. But when I sit down with my husband on a Friday night, I will sit down with a beautiful cheese plate and a glass of red and savor it. And I think when we get back to quality of food, that's for me with the fast food. I don't want to have it because it's not nice. It actually doesn't taste very good. So get back to the quality of food, which is very Mediterranean in the approach. And then you don't need to feel guilty because it naturally falls into having a beautiful pasta once a week. But then we keep it light the rest of the time, because those indulgent things can't be in every day. They've got to be just a couple of times a week. And that's where it comes back to the balance. But every single one of us will have a different balance that suits them. And that comes down to working out what fits with your life and your food preferences. And when you've worked that out, then you'll have a sustainable structure of healthy eating for you that allows you to control your weight. Wow.
You've just demystified nutrition in 20 minutes. When I said to you in the beginning, I said, I know it's a big topic, but it's true. And I even feel better having spoken to you, because I've just been bouncing around all of these diets and no carbs and then good carbs, but that blows my bloods. And, so I want to thank you just personally for helping me with that. but also for our audience. Susie, it's been a treat to talk to you. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure anytime. Thank you for having me.